Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Fallout 3. Let's continue. So we're doing this Point Lookout DLC, and it seems to me, as far as how the quests are explaining things, is that we are just going to walk up to this Ark and Dove Cathedral, and the tribals are literally just going to let us join their group, which is almost 100% in contrast with what the little boy who's living in this cave, Miner's Rest, was saying, in that only the mutated people with the quote unquote marks in this area seem to really be accepted. Unless, of course, the tribals are a different group than whoever this boy was trying to be a group with. And there's still this real confusion as to where Point Lookout is supposed to represent, really. Because I was thinking that it kind of looks like the New Jersey boardwalk. Like Coney Island, is that it? But then it also has a lot of feel of just being New Orleans, Louisiana. And I wonder if this isn't just a case of just like some people thinking one way and some people thinking another, and it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Of course, this is in an alternate reality 200 years in the future, so New Orleans people and their culture could have just moved towards this. Okay, so this is straight up just like Tenpenny Tower again.
Who lingers at the threshold of transcendence?
Let's see. So we can be a jerk or we can try to be nice. Let's just stick with being the nice guy.
What's this? A humble traveler, seeking the guidance of our awakened minds. Truly, this is a glorious day. You are from far away, and must be strong indeed to have traveled this far. But strength is nothing without the guidance of the enlightened mind. If you
We're just looking at an intercom this whole time.
You must prove yourself worthy to transcend.
Okay, so we have to prove ourselves.
You may not be so brave when you face the ritual of the Mother Seed. Stronger souls than you have attempted it, and lost their minds. Venture west to the Great Bog, and within you shall find the mother of all punga fruit. She stands taller than a man, and her vines guide our future. Collect her seeds, and kneel before her wisdom. Only then will you be ready to enter these sacred halls.
Visual glitch. So clearly, like, the intercom should have just been put here. Like, I know there isn't really a wire texture, and for this age of this game, a wire texture would probably look pretty bad, but just have it here so that you're actually looking at the church, or just have a person stand at the gate and talk to you through the gate. That would have been fine too. Just a real bad way to have that relatively short conversation anyways. Okay. Let's... It does seem like you kind of constantly can't play these games the way you would want to. Like, I see something on the map, I want to be efficient. I don't want to turn what is potentially a 200-hour experience into a 400-hour experience. So, I want to try and do my best to be efficient there. And we have a feral ghoul reaver. This graveyard might be dangerous even for the likes of me, because everything may be scaled up to be playable at a max level. What was that? What I suspect, swamp ghoul. What I suspect is going to happen here. We're getting radioactive gore thrown at us. Actually, it's probably a little too much to hope that we join the tribe and then there's a full-on just like new visual effect that changes how you view everything. And this resting ground is literally just a graveyard. If anything, my suspicion, I guess, would be that what would change is you would get creepier and more rainy. Yeah. A while ago I played Left 4 Dead, and one of the things about the DLC for Left 4 Dead is that there was one expansion called The Storm, where it was a real experiment in having a kind of tornado happen. And a storm happen. And so I could see going down that same logical path and maybe not make everything so maybe not make a tornado / hurricane around it. Maybe you just make a yeah, and that really sucks to reach a place and not have the key to go in. I can see it getting dark, though. These guys clearly were rescaled so that even a max level player could reach us. And this, again, introduces certainly the question as to why would you want to play this game on a higher difficulty setting when that's seemingly not going to do anything other than make you die more often. Let's see. Coastal Grotto is not this boat or these buoys. Should go check these buoys just to see if there's anything special about them, like you can interact with them or anything. You would kind of like to be able to go in the water and see something, see like this whole ocean and see all these other species of creatures. Wow, I am almost completely dead. But they made the game in such a way that you can never really dive deep. We are wearing the powered armor, and if you were to introduce the idea of any lake or parts of an ocean that you could investigate and you needed to take your power armor off to reach those areas, that would be a nice little balance. I think that's what The Witcher 3 tried to do with their canonical storyline of having a steel sword and a silver sword, where one steel swords were for armored humans and had toughness, where silver swords were for monsters, because monsters were effectively allergic to the silver swords and would take more damage. Seems like you just would have to have jumped down here to get to this location. And I'm not really expecting too much in these caves. Yeah. We have a guy running from us named Plick. Which we'll see if we can... So we read the journal. Gain 5 bonus to damage when attacking a ghouls. We'll take a mini nuke while we're at it. And I'm not going to bother with other items. So Plick seems to be connected enough that he can watch TV. And Plick Safari.
Welcome to my extraordinary safari. Shall we get you registered?
It's funny you ran away. Sure.
Only the finest bit of sport you've ever enjoyed. Once we review the rules and see to a nominal 1,000 caps registration fee, of course. I've found that price keeps the riffraff out. You aren't riffraff now.
Sorry, I'm chewing on ice here.
But of course. What would you like to know? The participants, that's you, assemble in the arena. Once you've made your preparations, signal me with the button inside to begin the hunt. I'll remotely release a group of ferals against which you must defend yourself. Don't worry, I'll make sure there aren't too many loose at one time. You're in for quite a treat, if I do say so myself. Not an option, I'm afraid. The thrill wouldn't be the same if you knew I'd release you at the first sign of trouble, now would it? Weapons are your own responsibility, ma'am. I'm sure you have your own preferences, after all. On with the action,
So,
huh?
it feels a lot like what's happening here is they're copying some of the arena areas of Borderlands, but again, I'm fairly certain Borderlands came out after this, but this feels very off from what we had seen in any other DLC. Sure, in the pit you fought in the pit, but this feels like I literally am just going to go in a room to grind and kill enemies. Which, if there were a few of these arenas in the main game, that might make a little bit more sense, but then you also would have to kind of adjust the max level so it could go higher. Remember, like Borderlands 1 max level was about 65 when you play the game twice through with the new game plus, but it's only probably about 35 in the first game. And even at that, you were just fighting so many more people that you had to actually kill a lot more people, but you killed a lot more people a lot quicker. This game is very slow, even with a very decent weapon, for you to have to go in the vets, shoot people in the head. It really is sucking the action out of what should be an action game, in my opinion.
Have I tried to chew on your skull? Perhaps you've noticed my ability to string words into complete sentences. These ferals are nothing like myself. I'm no more a monster for providing them than you are for slaughtering them.
Okay. Let's just do it.
That's the spirit, sir. The other participants are waiting, so just press the button inside to let me know when to begin.
At this point, I think pretty much anybody playing this DLC would probably have an extra 1,000 caps. I have an extra 38,000. Don't have a huge selection as far as weapons. So we've got some glowing feral people, which it seems like we could probably just kill these swamp ghouls now, but probably don't want to. So it's a cave kind of area.
Try not to. So you're number 3. Well, let's get this thing going.
It just seems to be a...
Mr. Flick's really outdone himself this time.
Alright, so... Seems like they're probably going to just release from different directions. And there's going to be this higher chance of explosions with that explosive gas. Which that's an interesting addition. Again, kind of too late.
Close. We'll both be better for it.
And just a brick with a switch on it. Which if you can put a brick on a switch with it and a light on top, you could have put an intercom.
Found you.
This guy immediately dead. Is that because these guys are so high level? Or was that just the plan immediately, was that people were going to be dead? These barrels aren't super strong. So I do kind of have to just assume that the plan was to for them to die fairly quickly. And when you're in a scenario like this, you really can't use VATS. Like if I was to go into VATS here, do one headshot here, one headshot here, one headshot here, body shot there. That's, I can only do 3 of those shots. And even though I have the perk that would then refill my action points, like you'd have to immediately go back into VATS. And this is why this perk is kind of pointless, is that you would have to have a constant refilling of enemies on the screen for that to work. There's a real question about whether or not this would just go on forever. It probably shouldn't, because there would be too many people that are potentially overpowered, like I am. I hear somebody running, and I almost assume that if something falls down here, it should just die. But it doesn't really seem like that's the case. Well, there's a ramp. Alright. Is there really a reason to search any of these guys? You might get some bobby pins off of them. You might get a small, insignificant amount of bobby pins or caps. But you'd have to put a lot of work into it. See, what would be slightly interesting is if you came back into this room and it's completely different. It's like no longer a cave at all. Does feel like we should probably come down here and investigate just to see if there was something under here. Odds are low that there actually is anything. I feel like both of these ghouls actually clipped through the ground. Compared to the arenas in Borderlands, this is way worse. Like, it's much smaller. It doesn't go as long. There aren't waves. Which, if this was like Mad Moxie's Thunderdome DLC, where you're going against a feral ghoul wave or glowing one wave or raider waves or wastelander waves or enclave waves, like all that would be fairly interesting.
Coming through. Tremendous showing. I do hope the experience was worth every cap. Let's commemorate your first safari with a token of our friendship, shall we? This axe was misplaced by one of my other patrons. She won't be needing it anymore, and it's a weapon of gruesome distinction. Enjoy it.
So we have the dismember added.
Your enthusiasm is flattering, but I'll need time to round up more fodder. Could I trouble you to return in a day or two? As you please.
So yeah, if there was more events like that where you went into a cave and you fought somebody for a relatively small amount of time and then you got a named weapon, that would be fine. Let's see what this feels like. Definitely feels like a swing mechanic and a weapon that you probably don't really need in this game. Chinese assault rifle here, even at low condition, which this weapon may break if I'm not careful. He's still doing 30 more damage with the Chinese assault rifle. Or my character, she. So next we would want to go to the truck wreckage. Which way do we think might be the best way to get up? Because I don't want to spend 10 minutes trying to jump on the ledge of this rock, trying to find a way up. Although, I also don't want to spend a bunch of time walking around the ledge. This is fairly sheer rock. But with enough mashing of the button, of the jump button, you can get up. I will say that is something that I think Zelda Breath of the Wild addresses, and it's something that I didn't even really realize needed to be addressed. But yeah, very often in these open world games, you are getting blocked off by rocks in this half-hearted attempt to make it slightly difficult for you to climb up, but not impossible for you to climb up to an area. Whereas I would like the game to either just smack me down like Breath of the Wild because I don't have enough stamina to climb a building, a wall, or say, yes, you do have enough stamina so you can climb up a wall that is sheer and vertical, and you don't have to really worry about it. Although, of course, as soon as Breath of the Wild did introduce its stamina system, a lot of people really wished it had just infinite stamina to climb up, and that probably is the better solution anyways. Like, we don't really have any walls in Fallout 3 or any of the DLC that look like something that you should be able to climb that I've actually tried to climb. It would have been easy enough to simply have some rocks be radioactive so you could climb on them, but even as you get close to them, they start to give kind of a massive amount of radiation. And then everything else, if I could just vertically climb over it, like even here is a kind of great example. If I walk straight here to this slightly tall rock, it's a wall. Can't do anything without jumping. If I walk here, it goes up and over. So why not just have it immediately go up and over in everything? The items we are collecting do seem to be kind of the same thing over and over again. I don't know if I really want to hold on to a lawnmower blade. Here's the lighthouse bulb. And I hear the sound of a billiard ball rolling whenever these roll around, these heads. So it seems like they've just taken the billiard ball sound effect and reskinned it, reskinned the billiard ball. They probably copied the code, as it were, for the billiard ball and put the creepy doll head on top of it. There's a bunch of broken light bulbs here. We should look around this truck a little bit more before we fast travel back to the lighthouse. Since we already know what to do with that light bulb. Although we don't know what we're really going to get for that. I don't think I ever did figure out how to put a grenade in someone's pocket to explode someone. I may have actually done that and then load saved. I think I did do that on Greta. Or I did a Sandman kill on Greta. But that was kind of like a bad karma action. And I didn't want that to be part of my main save file. Of course, when I made that decision, that was probably 10 hours before I was just straight up killing everybody in the Mothership Zeta DLC and taking their equipment. Because I just didn't care at that point. Right. So one bulb is working now. Yay. Is there a radio or anything here? Yeah, you would think that somebody would radio you here for doing that. And say, yes, thanks you, this ship is now safe or something. But yeah. If that is part of a quest, I've just done that part of the quest, and I have no idea what else or why I was supposed to do that. This one mansion is really nice and big. Yeah, so visually it's there. And that's nice, I suppose, but it's hardly anything special. Let's just fast travel to this campsite. Let's go to the House of Wares now and just try and visit everything. It kind of makes sense to visit everything. What inevitably is going to happen here is we're going to have a fast travel location to everything, and unless the game specifically forces us to walk over this open world, we'll just fast travel from one place to another to another. And that's very much how I ended up playing most of the main game. 4 Nuka-Colas. But what I really, really would need is a Chinese assault rifle. And I'm not probably going to get it. Interesting that these boards all can be knocked around. And they have physics on them. So this is the House of Wares / warehouse. And it's just full of all these baby cribs. And then we have all these creepy dolls. So I wonder if the creepy dolls around this are one person and not just generically a lot of people. I would argue, frankly, that this is probably just a physics experiment to blow things around. Every time Bethesda tries to do something spooky like this, it really just proves that they don't know what they're doing. And that they shouldn't try to make something spooky. Arguably, it's probably more to do with just a level of commitment. And if Bethesda had just greenlit a the Evil Within style horror game, or Resident Evil style horror game, anything like that, regardless of style. If that had been agreed upon, is that the whole game was going to be from that style and from that approach, and that there was a real visionary in charge of that, then I bet they could make a good horror sequence. But just one room looking a little creepy is not enough. Or the occasional room looking a little creepy because it's got mannequins in it is not enough. What's funny here is you could possibly get back to using the repellent stick. These aren't doors. If this whole land had just been completely overrun with mole rats, and they warned about you, they warned you about that to start with. Now, up until this point, the game has mostly that took too many shots. They've mostly been focusing in on the infantry, the military, the army of the game. So if this is the Navy recruitment station, you have a whole bunch of chairs, which makes sense. There's a hand print here. Maybe that means something. It could be that the Navy and the Army kind of eventually merge, which, sure, that would make sense. Particularly with power armor. Like, it would be very interesting if there was some kind of aquatic power armor design. Let's see. The Confederate hats don't make any sense, though. Yeah, it kind of never makes any sense that you would make a game where you were far in the future, and yet people would be wearing Confederate hats representing the failed revolutionary Civil War part of the United States. Like, you really can't have patriotism for the United States and take that to an insane jingoistic level and also have people wearing Confederate hats. Unless something like my theory that perhaps slavery didn't exist in this alternate universe, or was kind of completely forgotten about. I guess that might make Confederate hats, but even at that, it still doesn't really make sense. And if this was the idea that the Confederacy actually won, and that was the split point of this timeline, then I don't see how Abraham Lincoln would have been reviled and have statues in the capital, Washington, D.C. area. That wouldn't make any sense either. It almost certainly just boils down to that at the time this game came out, it was still fairly common and still fairly taken as somewhat acceptable, although never really taken as 100% acceptable, that people more in the South would wear Confederate hats and wave Confederate flags. But that really does not make any sense nowadays in 2022 when I'm recording this. what would make more sense is that nobody wore Confederate hats. The bombs dropped. A bunch of Confederate hats from museums became available, and that's why people started wearing them, just because they were hats. But, and again, this doesn't make any sense if this is supposed to be like Coney Island. This only makes sense if you're talking deep south of New Orleans. So here is some story as far as Yang being captured and transferred. See, it's just like stories of this 5-claw dragon. Now we have a photo of this person as a note, which seems a little extra, to say the least. So are we gonna run into this Yang character? How could we? He should be like 200 years old. He would have to be a ghoul. Guess that would be a decent amount of haul if you were trying to build up 1,000. Like, build up 1,000 points. I think I'll start using this double-barreled shotgun. And then scoped magnum. We have to go that way. Can't drop anything at the moment because it's all glitched again. Yeah. Wan Yang, if this is supposed to be a guy, doesn't look like anybody I would recognize. It's just a person in sunglasses with certain hair, and it looks to be a female if I was to guess. Yeah. So it could be any of these dead bodies. It could be a ghoul and we just wouldn't know. There was apparently one stuck behind the door here. There's nothing more to that. With the ability of this game to crash as much as it does, it is also, I think, worth noting that you need the game to have you walk in and out of specific areas. That way you can autosave. I was thinking that this is probably not going to be an area where you actually deal with protectrons. But we have one here. And what looks like we have here is a very old, which again doesn't really make sense for the timeline, wooden pinball table. Very, very old design. And I don't think I can quite make out White Star something. Yeah, it's just the exact same pinball table over and over again. Which, if you're going to animate something like that, you would have to use it in a lot of different places. Here we have a kind of simplistic skee ball tables. Here we have a milk bottle toss. And we have ducks. We have an actual character here.
Well, hello there, young traveler. The fates had told me that I would receive a visitor today. But I'm being rude. I am Madame Panada, and this is Madame Panada's House of Wares. For all things a traveler needs, I am here to provide.
So this could be that character we just found out about.
Stim packs, armor, weapons, junk. If you need it, Madame Panada has already anticipated your need and procured it months ago.
Let's see.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Madame Panada is quite handy with a wrench.
She has a repair skill of 5. Pretty low. Yeah. It doesn't make sense though that this would be the 5 dragons person, because that would have been 200 years ago when the bombs dropped that photo was taken. So unless this was some kind of weird immortal character, that doesn't make sense. It might make sense that she is some descendant, but we don't have any dialogue option that we've unlocked. And you'd almost start to believe that for as many Chinese spies it seems like war in the United States, that half of the citizenry would be partially Chinese now, because after the bombs dropped they just have to get together and live together. You would assume. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything like that.
Came to me.
Right. Guess if we needed to buy anything, we could come purchase things. And if we need a radiation suit for 40 rad resistance, I'll take that. Whereas I think the rest of this is all kind of nothing. Alright, well, let's see what we can sell. Go ahead and sell one of these. Sell a couple tribal garbs. Sell workman's coveralls. Let's see what has any weight. Nuka-Colas we don't want to sell. Punja fruit. I think we can stick with just like 3 of those. Wild punja fruit. We can stick with 6 of those, I think. Wine, we'll keep just 1. And then garbage. Lawnmower blade, I'll just sell that. Large whiskey bottle, we'll sell that. Fishing battery, we'll sell that. We'll keep 1 fishing pole. Sell the camera. Okay. That should be enough.
Fair travels, young one.
Shooting the duck does not do anything. Okay. Yeah. So Wan Yang photo file very possibly plays no role. And I'm just gonna continue to investigate this area. I assume if a shutter is down, that means you can't access it. We landed the boat here, and we ran that way because it said follow the smoke. So, that didn't really give us a lot of opportunity to walk this direction. I definitely feel like you could have done more with this. This could have been a whole bustling Rivet City location with fairly well off, fairly rich people wandering around entertaining. Trash compactor, interesting. Like, we're clearly going to do something with that. But yeah, there could have been people all throughout this place trying to build a city, trying to relive the glory of the old days, maybe even living in a level of blissful ignorance. What's interesting here is there's a gap here, but it's just being treated completely as a floor. I'm not stepping down at all. If that was part of the tribals, certainly, that would give them more of a storyline concept. Or even if you were to go the We Happy Few route and there was just a few tribals wandering around here looking dazed and confused as if they're seeing something that you're not seeing, that would be interesting. It'd be very ambitious for the time, but if there was a whole alternate reality version of this world that once you become a tribal you get high and you see it, that would be a very interesting sequence. Of course, we do see that happen in other games in the future, and everything is iterative, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was even a certain level of influence that these DLC concepts led to people turning that into a full game concept. Since video games are kind of an annualized product, or they try to make them an annualized product, every year you need a new excuse to make a first-person shooter, and unless you're just going to do a Call of Duty strategy of having it set in a war environment, a new gimmick would almost certainly help. This feels a lot like the motel in The Walking Dead, but motels are motels, which is to say motels have their doors opening to the outside for each room, whereas a hotel has the doors of rooms opening into a lobby. That's how I've understood it. So there's only one door. It seems like we can pick to get in. At least of what we found. Motels tend to be cheaper than hotels, and do tend to be in poorer neighborhoods. Right, we've got a trunk. We've got TVs. What's funny is I would not have expected a TV to look like this. Like, this level of technology is not that diesel punk art style that we've seen everywhere else in the game. And then when you have these sensor modules and vision batteries sitting around that again feels like a different style of game, different art style. So people had guns and they had money. And then you have rug. And the way this is all laid out, it kind of feels like this person maybe got in a shootout with this person. Take that sawed-off shotgun. I nearly missed that. Let's see if we can do anything with the sawed-off shotgun. 49 versus 99. Again, benches proving themselves to be just a pain. Chinese pistol. It also locker key. It does kind of give the feeling that there were just no vaults in Point Lookout. Stealth boy. So I'm suspecting this may very well have been the Yang Wang safe house terminal. Welcome to the U.S., Dr. Jing. Let's see. We covered the dead Chinese spy mission. I guess pause now if you want to read this. Pause now if you want to read this. So now we have the Velvet Curtain as a quest. And where would that quest send us? I've been playing this game for like 200 hours and I still don't have a clue on how to actually use this system. It's so ridiculous. It's just an unintuitive, badly designed interface. Alright. The jerk. As in the soda jerk's shop, I imagine. Okay. So this game may give us actually 3 or 4 pause now if you want to read this. This may actually give us 3 or 4 quests, but they probably are going to be fairly small quests. Yeah. Notice how they put that wanted poster at an angle that you would only see it kind of walking from the motel, not walking to the motel. What does the exact quest say? Recover the spy mission's debriefing from the locker in Point Lookout. So somewhere here. Locker, very easy. Nothing in this locker. And here you have to have a key. Which this would very possibly be the first time these lockers have ever had a storyline item in them in the entire game. It's basically feels like they created a system that says, no, we can't have anything important in any of the lockers or shelves, because if we did have any of that, then we would potentially train the players to search every single locker, even though this game heavily encourages people to search every single locker anyways. Clearly they were trying to accommodate people who were smarter than me and less obsessive than me, who would potentially just learn to run past the lockers. I think the lockers, for the most part, should be completely missing from the game, and only important items like this should have been in the locker. But you could have done that with a foot locker also. So just get rid of the regular lockers and only have foot lockers. Or vice versa, but definitely get rid of 99% of them. Let's see what this contact tape is.
I apologize that I cannot receive you in person, Agent Zhang. Our Norfolk contact confirms your arrival. How eager the Americans are to believe that a great mind.
It's crazy you have to leave the menu to get the subtitles.
To that end, let us turn to the details of your mission. This room will be your safe house in Point Lookout. Focus initially on playing the American lapdog. Do not arouse suspicion. When it is safe, use the key you were given in Norfolk to open one of the public rental lockers on the boardwalk near the motel. You will be provided with the password you'll need to access your mission debriefing. The agreed upon payment will be paid upon extraction. Hayun, Agent Zhang.
It, in a certain level, definitely does not feel like it matters, any of this intrigue. Because, like, this is just all water under the bridge, as it were. It's just, it seems pointless and silly to even care. We don't even know if it was the Chinese that dropped the bombs or not. All we know is that there clearly was escalating tension, and it led to the destruction of the world for just kind of a pointless reason.
Go to the bank and use the password Xin Chan Weng. The software is configured to recognize only our voices.
Okay. Okay, so now the quest says we're now going, we're just walking around. But why have a quest like this? Like, you really have to ask this question. Why have a quest like this when there is no enemy between point A and point B? I should be running into a mole rat or a rad roach. Something that would respawn in between each of these sections. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to have a computer programmed to interact by using a Chinese passphrase. What if somebody overheard you? Let's see. Loan officer's desk. Box 119 password backup. Interesting. But I think that's two different boxes. Yeah. 1191.
The audio password for my box is nevermore.
Yeah. And so if you were supposed to talk into these devices, that might be something. It's always weird when you see bottle caps next to pre-war money also. As if there was a crossover period when both pre-war money and bottle caps were being used. Both of these safes could just be picked. And nothing more for this part. So it is a voice-acted intercom security system. Alright. There's just a bunch of wine. You can see most of these doors have been pulled open. And it doesn't seem like there's anything more. Okay. Laser pistols. Let's see. Chinese pistols. It definitely does feel like a limited level. So there is this Isla Negra Holdings, which I've never heard of this company. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like Black Mesa. That's a different way of saying something like Black Mesa and it's a Half-Life reference. Or if it is supposed to just be like Black Mesa is the secondary company to the Half-Life company. Or actually, I think Black Mesa was the #1 company in Half-Life, and it was Aperture Science, Aperture Labs that was the #2. And that would be a Portal reference more than a Half-Life reference. Anyways, pause now if you want to read that. Pause now if you want to read this. Pause now if you want to read this. Pause now if you want to read that. So we now have this like shift close notes. Burn. So we may only be able to open 2 safety deposit boxes when there's actually 3 that we want to open. Although, from the looks of it, it's kind of hard to tell.
Welcome to Income. Secure teller. Vocal authorization requested.
Let's see.
Processing. Processing. Voice ID or password not recognized.
Seems like you don't need a voice. It's voice ID
Denied.
or a
Welcome
password.
to processing. Processing. Password verified. Voice ID mismatch. Access denied. User voice unauthorized. Access denied.
So it seems to me like what they want you to do is...
I apologize that I cannot receive you in person, Agent Jack. Go to the bank and use the password
Processing.
Chan Weng.
Processing.
The software is
Voice
configured to
ID
recognize
confirmed.
only our
Access
voices.
granted.
Okay. Then pre-war money. So you have to actually come into this.
The audio password for my box
Safety deposit.
is
Access
nevermore.
granted. Have a pleasant day. Processing. Processing. Voice
And yeah, there's nothing here.
ID confirmed. Access granted.
So I think there might be another one here that would open up. And I assume none of these others would open up any further. Alright. I guess what we would want to do is think about Dorothy, see if she has any holotapes of Byrne talking. Byrne's will. You don't know who Dorothy or Byrne is, though. And this was the first thing we would have gotten for this DLC. So we don't have any other recordings.
Agent Zhang, as you know, an important Chinese surveillance vessel was lost in American waters. Your mission is to destroy derelict submarine SSN-37-1A before the Americans can recover and analyze it. The recovery location is included in this dossier, and your cover ensures that the Americans will allow you access to their recovery operation. However, you will need an authorization code to trigger the self-destruct sequence. One of our field operatives in your area, Agent Yang, has these codes hidden in a dental capsule, but her current whereabouts are unknown. Locate and rendezvous with Agent Yang, then destroy the submarine. Report to your safe house for extraction information when the mission is complete. The will of the people protect you, Agent Yang.
Okay. And I guess we skipped maybe a little bit ahead now on this Velvet Curtain DLC quest. All this is DLC stuff. And this is gonna just work out great. We'll go check out Haley's Hardware, Margaret's Shack, and the Turtle Dove Detention Camp. And that'll mean that nearly half of our locations have been searched. Yeah. If every year you got 60 hours worth of gameplay and you went through a level like this. Now, this is a little small compared to Fallout 3. This would have been fine, I think, when Fallout 3 came out, if you were to make a 60-hour game in a world like this, but you definitely would have to like scale things down and just have infinitely spawning enemies and like maybe day and night cycles where different things happen. If you embrace the idea of characters walking around from one location to another like the caravan people did in the main game, then you might make an argument for that too. But honestly, yeah, it's a delicate dance. You don't want to backslide into something like an old text-based RPG where you're having to like type in travel north, and then north is this new area, and then you have to type in look around to see what's happening, because visually it's not even going to show you what's going on. So I would kind of lean towards it feels like there is somewhere close to the right amount of content in this game, this map. And so if I would want more content, I would want different maps. And really what I think I'd have to say is if the 4 pieces of DLC, 4 or 5, I don't even know, that came out for this game was its own standalone game, then you probably would get 40 to 60 hours of gameplay, and that would be enough. And if you traveled from those different locations, that would probably be fine too. Let's see what this is. Well, I just picked up a holotape note, and it didn't end up in my inventory. Miscellaneous items. I swear I just picked up a holotape note. Oh, whatever. Let's go in here and see what happens. We've got an actual person just walking around, not trying to kill us. Doesn't look like a ghoul. We've got a whole shop here. Fallout 3 really failed to have a lot of interesting shopkeepers. As it was. Moira being about the only one. So if you were going to make Moira the only interesting shopkeeper, I think you would have her move around, or have her have like clones. That would be very funny, frankly, is if she had a whole bunch of clones that made her the shopkeeper for every other shop, a la something like the Pokemon anime, where there's like quadruplets of all the officers and Poke Center nurses, and they all look exactly the same.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Haley's Hardware. Well, we have hardware.
Let's see, is something wrong?
No, not at all. I'm just not used to people all the way out here. My usual customers, well, I usually smell them before I see them. The swamp folk mostly. I guess they don't bother me none because I was born here. They mostly trade meat and fruit, never any cash or goods. Them mercs are good for some trade and real hardware. So if you need ammo or anything like that, I can help you out. I found some of it. Some was here when I got here. I got some from the mercs. And every once in a while, that weirdo
I think
with
that
the boat
said
comes up
smugglers
here
in the
and trades a few good
subtitles.
things. Oh, you're thinking, no, it's not a family thing. I took the name of the store when I found this place a couple years ago. Truth is, I don't even remember much before that. I woke up here with a headache a couple of years ago with the shop already set up. People came in and started trading. I didn't complain. It just became a job.
Wonder if he's a robot.
Sure thing. Are you here to buy something? I ain't met the gun I couldn't fix.
He has a repair skill of 16, which is better.
Look around, it's all here.
See what he's got to sell. Which again, I don't expect to find anything special here. Can you buy radiation suits and use them to fix advanced radiation suits? I guess we'll find out. All of these shopkeepers have a decent amount of caps on them, which is not something that happened in the main game, and that was certainly a problem that would pop up here and there. But really, the whole inventory system and capitalism system here is just broken in general, so you end up wasting a lot of time and not accomplishing much.
There's not much to tell. What do you want to know?
Let's see.
Sure thing. Are you here to buy something? Be careful out there. Them swamp folk is nasty.
I wouldn't be surprised also if there is something about the punja fruit that brainwashes people and they just wake up here from starting off as an outsider and they think that they were born here. Right. Whatever it was that was sitting here that I picked up must have not been what I thought it was. And there's just don't think going to be an easy way to figure out what that thing was. You can use radiation suits to fix advanced radiation suits. All the way up. Damage resistance 40. If I equip this, by the way, we should just check. It seems like that still... We take a rad X. Yeah, it seems like you have a max level of rad resistance. At least in the Game of the Year version of the game. Where you are... Well, maxing out at 85. I'm noticing that this power armor also doesn't seem to ever take any damage. Which, maybe that's because it's a special item, or maybe that's just because you'd have to take a really high amount of damage. Yeah, I'm just looking at everything. Okay. Another area investigated. Let's now move over to Marguerite's shack. It definitely does make sense. The point lookout here would be just a completely different type of people, not really connected to the Wastelanders or the Raiders of the capital. It would certainly have to be that way in my mind for 200 years to have passed and no form of governance to have been created. Like the distance of different locations seems to just allow for... This is more of that. Creepy dolls. Must have just really allowed for different societies to grow up and be completely isolated from other regions. And anybody trying to coordinate them so that there would be a united federation of some sort probably doesn't get too far. The fact that they don't have horses even highlights one of the problems here is that the Native Americans never had that mentality to become a United States, and they were easily defeated, or not so easily defeated, but they were definitely defeated and taken over by the citizens of the United States. Interesting. I can't open this cabinet. It says open, close, which opening and closing something is just not how things work for cabinets. Let's see if we can
You finding
talk
your
to
way
Margaret.
around, sweetie?
Interesting. She's just sitting there. Repair it. And now the moonshine still should work. So maybe we'll get some moonshine out of that. But yeah. Had the settlers, invaders from England and other places of the United States come to the New England area, and they didn't bring any horses over from Spain at any point there would have not been any horses in the North America area, because they're actually an invasive species, and so there would be no domesticated animal that could move fast to move you from the vast distances of the United States. That's not to say countries couldn't have formed up, but they kind of have to form up in smaller locations where you can either use like canals or something slower like a donkey, which you really wouldn't want to ride a donkey or a camel. I think camels maybe a little bit faster, but yeah, without the mass transport that is missing, communication breaks down. It's just too slow. And by modern standards, if the internet broke down and you couldn't just immediately call somebody on the phone or email somebody or text them via internet / cell phone, telephone services, then society would be a lot harder to maintain and coordinate as far as communication and
look at you.
governance.
You ain't have the look of a local young lady. Think you could help a sick woman get on the mend?
Sure.
Reckon it's the orange fever. I do feel light in my head.
I don't know what the orange fever is, and apparently neither does our character.
Now that is just an awfully rude thing to say, sweetie.
Speech 100%.
Well, oh, fine, maybe you're no hog's fool, but I reckon we both come out better if you can help me cook up some tonic.
All right.
Secret family technique. Been so for generations. Help me brew some up by gathering ingredients. I'll share the batch to make it worth your while and sweeten the deal with 300 caps. Tell you what, have a bit. This is left over from an old batch, but should be a swig or two there. More than enough to loosen you up, I'll wager. This and that. Let me know when you want to work out the details.
Okay. Let's see. So you have another small quest. And this is really what I wanted here. Is apparently we need fission batteries.
Could it now? I suppose you'd know how to see to that, wouldn't you? I reckon you've got a deal, sweetie. But I better
might as well
the
do
difference
these.
in the tonic.
Right.
Thanks for mending the still, sweetie. Why, I'm just folk. What more is there? Things aren't wonderful, but
Again, we have
it's
a
hard
lot
all
of dialogue
around.
here, and it
My
makes sense
family's
to
lived
put the
hereabouts since,
dialogue with
well,
the
before
quest
the war,
givers and the
and I reckon we'll
shopkeepers.
be here a long
It would
time yet.
make a lot more sense if all shopkeepers are also quest givers, or that there is at least a connection where when you walk to a shopkeeper, they have a line of dialogue that says, you should head to the north. There's this girl named Margaret looking for some assistance.
Here, I thought you were a quick one. Look, sweetie, I reckon you'd have shot me as soon as you walked in here if you weren't a kind soul. Or at least an enterprising type. That old thing's been in my family for years and years. Well before the bombs,
Again, you
there
see
was a
this
time
character,
folks couldn't get
and
no tonic
I don't
by law,
really
and my
see
family
what
did
the marks
okay
are supposed to
helping 'em
be.
get
Is
what
it
they needed.
some kind of burn marks on their arms?
I thought you'd never ask.
Or is it darkness around their eyes?
There aren't too many ingredients, but I brew large batches, so we need a good bit of each. We'll need punga fruit, yeast, and some fishing batteries for that extra little kick. I see. Thank you kindly for these.
So that was what the yeast is about.
Don't be a stranger now.
Yeah. You see what looks just kind of like mud and then darkness around the eyes, but it was more recognizable in the pit when people had actual like diseases. If I set this one up, the quest doesn't actually point me in any direction. 10 refined punja fruit or 20 wild punja fruit and 6 fusion batteries. Okay. We now know what to do as far as items. Assume that the moonshine here, it's -2 intelligence, +2 strength, +2 charisma. So that's kind of an interesting item, but like all other aid items, you're just never really going to do anything with it. You still have this scenario where there will be potentially a outhouse or a shack or a car, and that's not going to be marked as any kind of fast travel location. Water here is not particularly any more radiated than it is anywhere else, so walking through it is fine. Which, it would be very weird if you had like 0 resistance. What was that? Smuggler. So smugglers feel like they're going to be potentially the super mutants of this world, which would make sense, because I doubt we will run into actual super mutants. Double-barreled shotgun. Feels very impactful when it works, so I do kind of like it. You would expect to see more ghouls in general around this area, in the whole point lookout area. That creates a good reuse of the idea. Headshot and headshot. Here's an interesting question. Are all ghouls Chinese people? Might be the case. That there was something specifically in the Chinese genetics that created ghouls. I don't think so. No, that can't be it, because some of the intelligent ghouls that we've talked to clearly weren't Chinese. Come on. Even though I have like 60 bobby pins, I still get scared when you start to go this route. And 200 hours in, and I'm still not actually succeeding at being able to pick a lock efficiently. I feel like the barbed wire should hurt you a little bit. Just take one bit of life off if you run into it. See how many different places we can end up where we're not supposed to end up. Okay. And it has just gotten down to the point where if I struggle, I should use VATS. If I don't struggle, don't bother. Definitely, it's probably benefiting me a little bit to have gotten that extra damage on feral ghouls, but it might be a very insignificantly small amount of extra damage that I'm doing while the game is scaling up these ghouls to be very high. It's a dog bowl. I thought that might be an entrance to a cellar or something. I assume this morgue, just the limitations here imply to me that this is going to be a fairly small area. Move the self-destruct codes. I don't know why we're specifically activating the self-destruct code. Scissors. Shin Mai. Chang A. It's just so ridiculous that we can just ignore them. See, they almost certainly put these people here just as distraction items in case you didn't know who you were actually looking for, or if you were just so bad at remembering names. I'm not really getting the backstory so much. As far as, yes, they were brought to this facility, and yes, they're dead. Yeah, am I supposed to have burnt something here? Or was there supposed to be a feral goal here? It feels like to me I was supposed to potentially, like, is he trying to drag a body all the way over there is not worth the effort. Feels like you were supposed to potentially take this body and put it in the incinerator, even though it doesn't really make sense. I feel like this sewer is gonna just end up with me exiting out in some distant location and then fast traveling back. We might still be under the rules of locked things never contain anything important. That'd be believable. Right. So where are we now? We're near the trash heap, so we might as well go and investigate this trash heap. Am I going the right way? Yeah. Just haven't quite made it. Let's look around this trash heap and see if there's anything useful here. Just a lot of bottle caps and crafting material, just in case I guess you wanted to craft something. But inevitably they can't give you a bottle head. They could experiment, I think, with giving you more feels like this respawned. I think they could have experimented with giving you more named weapons. Right. Assault rifle, sniper rifle, all kinds of weapons, mini nuke, all kinds of batteries. Take some bobby pins, take some stim packs. Need to take some rataways and actually ingest them. This is another great example of just too many things to search in one place. Unless they're intentionally trying to overwhelm you or over encumber you. This is insane. And yes, the game is giving us caps so we could buy our way into the arena and fission batteries and yeast. It is also still not going to encourage any player who just doesn't care to search and find these items. Not until it just the game smacks the player in the face and says you have to have all of these items in your inventory, or you have to collect these things. It's very possible that people could flippantly run around. This is driving me crazy. Right. Get rid of the assault rifle. We'll hold on to the axe. We'll get rid of the Chinese pistol because we don't need that. We'll get rid of the laser pistol. Actually, how much damage does the laser pistol do? Nothing. Okay, good. And I think we can get rid of the sniper rifle too. Actually, we should see if we can fix the victory. What are we holding on to that has weight otherwise? I shouldn't have sold any of the fruit to start with. Get rid of the ashtray. Get rid of cherry bomb. I think we can get rid of that. And that. And we'll just get rid of 9 teddy bears. Even though we were going to give that to the baby, there's really no reason to go back to the Pitt DLC. Do you want to check the quest here? 6 fission batteries and 10 or 20 fruit. So I may have enough fission batteries already. If that's the case, we'll try not to pick up any more. Combat helmet, combat armor. Pause now if you want to read this. 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 And basically they're saying they're torturing them or interrogating them some way. Pause now if you want to read that. Pause now if you want to read that. It's just too much text. Yeah, like too much text in one place. Let's see. Pause now if you want to read that. Pause now if you want to read that. Some of this is the exact same stuff that we found in the recruitment center. Pause now if you want to read that. So that seems to have given a lot of text, a lot of story, where I really would have only bothered to engage with any of that. See how many fission things we have. 1 more fission battery. Should be all we need. And the pre-war money is just something you can sell. It's never been used for any other collectible, which is true for most of the things in this game. And it's not like you would just take a editor's knife to a game like this and say, well, because pre-war money is never used, it should be removed from the game. You might consider doing that if you've got nothing better to do with it. But it would be so easy to just introduce a character who loved pre-war money and would give you twice as many caps as anybody else, and also somebody that would appreciate that, and then also the other vendors. What is taking up all my weight? Like the axe. Victory rifle can be the sniper rifle. I definitely do want to know how far that explosion would go. Interrogation room B. All kinds of surgical implements. Strapping people down, leather belts. Definitely feels like torture to me. Mentats. Was there a way into this building? No. Just break that lock. Don't care. So clearly this is supposed to be a comment on the internment camps in of the Japanese citizens in World War II. And what the United States did. Here they're apparently electrocuting them. That's best as I can tell. But is it really making any comment? Or is it just making a reference? Yeah, let's just keep one moonshine. What I think I need to do is get rid of all the yeast. Yeah, that's taking up a ton of weight. Didn't realize how much the yeast was taking up. I mean, there's no big bold statement certainly here. It's funny the lights are still on. Like, yeah, the internment camps were wrong. Almost everybody agrees that they were wrong. There's not been too many things that are quite like that have ever happened after that, as far as atrocities against large numbers of people. I'm not gonna claim the United States wouldn't potentially do it again, but I think the odds are definitely lower. It would be more thought out, and as far as specifically targeting people that weren't citizens of the United States, like illegal immigrants or something like that. It wouldn't just be everybody who happens to look Chinese.
Well, if it ain't my favorite... We need to... I thought so. Those things do carry a smell, don't they? Let me take them off your hands then.
Okay.
Don't be a stranger now.
That'll just let us lighten our load some more. Yeah, we're down to 195 now. Okay. And as far as quests, this quest wants us to go all the way over here. This quest would be the time to collect all these, I guess. I think that works well. Then we can go here, 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 and back around here. Then we could focus on that. Am I pointing it in the right direction? This map is just like absolutely awful. The radar map. Yeah. Just seeing the standard circle overworld map that you get in Witcher 3 as a comparison highlights how awful this can be. Alright, is that time again? So it seems like I can only go maybe 2 hours, probably an hour and 30 minutes before I start to get a crook in my neck. Going forward in shorter games, I definitely am going to see that as a marker. And, well, in shorter games, I definitely wouldn't be playing 2 or 3 hour episodes anyways, but I am going to use that as an indicator to say, record 1 or 2 episodes and then take a break. And that's kind of what I was doing anyways before. But for now, it's back to equipping the ridiculous neck pillow. Try and get that to help. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like I'm snapping on a helmet in the middle. All that effort and still didn't blow up anything. Alright. This guy is stuck in the ground and can't reach us. And that's not intentional. Excavated muck hole. Okay. So, either the sample is deep down in the excavated muck hole, or it would be around here, so I'm assuming it's down here. Feels like there's gas everywhere. Here you have a dead person, the coffee mugs, biogas canister 3. I didn't ever get rid of my radiation either. Go ahead and take a rat away or two. Survey, soil survey 2. Let's listen to that.
Caroline Saunders speaking, Principal Geological Chemist on Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Preliminary results from sample site 2 are promising. We're posting similar concentrations as in the first site. Similar biogas makeup here as well, including a few organic compounds that I'm not familiar with. We've also discovered heavy lye residue in a naturally formed chamber at this excavation site. Lucky we were wearing caustics gear to begin with, or somebody might have suffered some serious chemical burns. I'd like to analyze the site further, see if there's any connection between these compounds and the lye deposits. My tech is telling me he needs a couple of hours to work on our ventilator unit. I suppose I'll move on to Site 3 in the meantime. Further analysis is for my own curiosity anyway. This is my authorization signature on sample Site 2.
Right, looking at the local map, it doesn't seem like there's anything else here. So, there is a level of lie that seems to be part of this. These swamp gas, biogas deposits. If the biogas canisters had existed throughout all of the overworld and you just found these large explosive like barrels. Creeper. You could definitely solve the issue of the main game just not having enough explosive barrels. See, clearly that's what they're trying to address, but that was a much bigger explosion. That was shooting a car. I feel like they probably were so enthralled with the effects of exploding a car that they overlooked the idea of just kind of smaller grenade style explosions happening. Let's see. Red racer jumpsuit. And an eye thing, and then you have these toy play sets, playgrounds things. And over here, it's just like a burned out building. Not really expecting much anyways. That almost looked like a sewer entrance. 1, 2, 3. Do we have enough punja fruit yet? I bet. Nope, we would need 5 more. Okay. Next map location should be up here. To the right. Am I pointing in the right direction? No. This way. If anything, this DLC is showing how you can cram a decent amount of content in a smaller land, and that definitely feels like the way games went, and that definitely feels like the way games should have gone compared to the main game being very empty. I have to just also assume that with the Game of the Year version, there was, even in the Capital Wasteland, several added elements. You can see how it switched over the audio to the cricket sound very fast and abrupt instead of fading it in. Here you've got fishing pole and can't do anything with it, really. This is the flooded sinkhole. That's, I guess, what this is called. And a lot of radiation popping up kind of for no reason. Like, I don't know why this here would be radiated. And with the radiation, you would think you wouldn't be able to sleep as you're actively radiating yourself. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Sleep there for 12 hours and wake up and find your radiation is at lethal levels. You do run into this other issue where it seems like a lot of these buildings have power with really no need to show power lines. or explain where the power is coming from, nobody would question that. Like, realism is nice and all, but you really don't have to become a slave to it. And I definitely think the main game is a little too much a slave towards attempting realism. Here we have a lot of dead bodies and creepy dolls. And I assume the fission batteries in the east, we won't need to collect any more of that. We're gonna rearm this trap. Nope. Let's not rearm it. I imagine that once we get some moonshine from the quest, it'll let us just repeat the quest. Over and over again to get more moonshine. There is really an inconsistency as far as the way the creepers look, though, versus makeshift bedding. Interesting. The creepers and the scrappers look too far away from all the other humans in the place. And that clock is too big and too low. Again, an element that could have been left on the cutting room floor or could have been an activation to some kind of secret. So yeah, I was saying I wouldn't get rid of things like pre-war money, but I definitely would have a quest given to you at the very beginning. Say, just call it greedy, collect over 100 pre-war monies, and then return it to this guy. If you do that, you get a special gun. In that special gun, it either does a specific amount of extra damage or it uses pre-war money as an ammunition. You do have the schematic for the junket rocket launcher that lets you put basically any item, any miscellaneous item in as ammo, but carrying that around is a hassle, and very few players are going to actually keep that around for the little amount of damage it would do. It's solving a solution to a problem that could be solved in a much better way. So it seems like this time we have another muck hole, but no feral ghouls. Right. Come on. Come on down. We have another advanced radiation suit. Oil survey tape. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
This is Caroline Saunders, Principal Geological Chemist for Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Sample set 1 shows promising concentration of biogas in mostly limestone substratum of wetlands. No exact levels yet, but this site should exhibit more than enough extraction potential to meet survey goals. I'm going to leave a couple of interns here to handle the minutia, but it's a formality. I'll move on to the other sites now to make sure this isn't an aberration. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 1.
Yep, I saw that coming. Didn't see it reigniting. Again, there's nothing in these caves. Which at a certain point even though you have the instant load, and that's probably what they were experimenting with more than you would realize, is that it's just an instant load into a small area, something that they clearly wanted to have more of that happening when their next game, Skyrim or whatever, came out. Like, it would have made more sense though for this DLC for the survey site table to not be down a hole, but instead just be on the surface where the ladder is. Oops, I hit a button. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I may be 1 short now. Yep, 1 punch of fruit short. You might get some benefit by having the items in a area that doesn't spawn enemies. That would make a little bit of sense. But all you're really doing there is admitting that the fact that the physics system sometimes bounces items around, sometimes even important items around, you're just realizing that without actually addressing that issue. Or that you want the minority style of player who would want to potentially just sneak into an area and not fight. You're trying to accommodate that play style when in reality there's probably less than 5 people that would have ever actually played that way. There you go. Wild punch of fruit. Yep. And again, it gets kind of hard to tell if that's supposed to be an American jet fighter or if that's supposed to be a Chinese jet fighter. I imagine it's an American jet plane. Nothing really there. Whole bunch of rounds and 10 millimeters. I have a black box recording. First aid box. Take the stem. Axe. Shovel. This might be an experimental plane, so they might have been literally just trying to break up the plane, or this might be a case where this guy with the 10 millimeter shot this guy, and this guy, and maybe a guy over here as they were like crazy locals attacking him. But again, this would have had to have been 200 years before the bomb dropped, or around the time the bomb dropped. So I don't expect them to be creepers or anything like that. Let's listen to the recording.
Multiple flashpoints on horizon. Come back. Air Command, USN 350 requesting landing vector. Have 0 ceiling visibility and low on state. Somebody get me a landing clearance. State 1+1 0 to splash. Have 0 read on outer marker. This is USN 350. I'm blind out here. Attempting emergency landing over water. INS pinger active on distress band. Flaps up. Descent to 8 cherubs. 3 green over. 5 cherubs. Tree line up. Throttle easy on 4 lights. Prepping to pull the loud handle.
Assume the loud handle is the ejection seat. Yeah, you'd have to kind of know that jargon, or there would have to be kind of a quest around that, and there kind of isn't. And it seems to me like the black box recording there did not record the events after it. This happened right as the bomb fell. So the suggestion is that this guy just crashed and then he was immediately attacked with a bunch of axe-wielding local people who hadn't been really irradiated or driven crazy. Couldn't possibly have been. Unless there was just a percentage of people that were turned into feral ghouls instantaneously as the nukes happened. Which you kind of have to assume that that is what they're implying. Because it doesn't really make sense that you would be able to be irradiated and then slowly turn into a ghoul over generations. And one of the ghouls actually straight up told us that that's what happened, is that they instantaneously seemed to be turned into ghouls, but it took them a while for their skin to peel. The feral part is the real question. How long would it have taken the non-intelligent ghouls to become feral and violent? These ham radios are not doing anything. Again, playing no role. There could have been a radio station, but I also don't really care that there isn't a radio station, since that was such a bad concept. It was underused. It's not like we've seen the idea of using a radio station in a game since then as a way of finding quests. Survey tape 3. And it seems like there's nothing around here.
What in the world have we tapped into? Sample site 3 is showing biogas concentration off the charts. Wetland substratum is surprisingly dense limestone at all excavation sites, and we've had no trouble locating naturally formed chambers. This and the dense calcite formation suggest that subterranean water flow has eroded a vast network of caves and grottos throughout the region. Mapping these will be a monumental effort and necessary to fully uncover the bounty of natural gas resources captured down here. What I don't understand is the amount of lye residue we're encountering. I'm going to try and touch base with some of my academic contacts and see if we can find any precedent for it. We'll have plenty of time to work that out, though. I've no doubt Bish will want to set up shop here and drill their little hearts out. This is Principal Geological Chemist Caroline Saunders for Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 3. Far as I'm concerned, this is a prime location for biogas harvesting and a treasure trove for some field research.
So it seems like there might be something organic underground here making the biogas, and that there might even have been some plans for a huge underground world here, which we do see that in Skyrim, that there's this giant underground world you find somewhere past the halfway point, and it's just like shocking that there would be that much content. I wouldn't be surprised if Bish is a subsidiary of Vault-Tec. I wouldn't be surprised if in this alternate universe there actually aren't any, let's go ahead and finish this quest, uses or sources of natural gas so much. And so would you particularly have a great experience if a Fallout 6 came out and natural gas was being harvested and society was coming back to its old ways? I don't know. Like, here's authorization code 1, 2, and 3. And then access the expedition supplies. think this was just a natural gas survey. Part of the problem with something like, I don't know why that was called an antique land. Something like natural gas, though, is you just don't know when that is going to run out. So you could very possibly end up building a whole society around using a lot of natural gas, and then it just all runs out and becomes bad for society as a whole. And all that gave us was some radiation and biogas containers, which, yeah. Let's come out here. And here's some cargo containers. It's an interesting effect, but nothing particularly too special about it. Much easier to stick with the double-barreled shotgun, and since it's now daytime, that is not enabled. Right, the next quest would be probably easier if we went and returned this to her and got the moonshine. And we've got a Talon Corp. These definitely look more like Left 4 Dead zombies than characters that should be in Fallout 3. Like, you might as well have just made a different game. There's no vaults here. There's not really any technology here. In a funny way, it might be an interesting counter-argument towards this is the reason why Fallout games only work in fairly specific places, is that you need a lot of people. They need to be survivors. You need buildings. You need technology.
Well, it ain't my favorite out-of-towner.
If you're just in a forest somewhere, that might as well be a
We need to gather up the
Skyrim style game.
Wild fruit, eh? Just as good, if a slight weaker for flavor.
Okay.
Brewing low and slow, sweetie. Process takes about a day. Why don't you come back in a piece?
Alright. So we've given them all the ingredients. Let's go and just fast travel to the sub-recovery site. Which I guess the lighthouse is the closest fast travel location. I feel like the amount of time that moves forward for fast traveling might be a little bit higher. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Dove Delta here is like right on the border. 6 more locations. So unless there is a vast underground tunnel or something changes, we'll probably just wrap up this DLC in the next recording, which is almost certainly for the best. Of course, we don't like the main story quest here, dealing with the tribals, is the one that was put so far on the edge that doing these side quests could easily be ignored or skipped. And that is, I think, the same mistake that that the main game made also is that you were very often, like, very often you were left to your own decisions as to whether you wanted to play the game or not. Okay. I'm thinking we need to go down. I assume we're not losing our breath as we're lockpicking. Yeah. This hook just goes in the ground, in the water. It's not like an anchor. I suppose it's supposed to be an anchor. Alright. So no, you were supposed to just jump up here, I guess. This is not a submarine, though. It says the submarine is over here. Are we standing on the boat? Nope, there's just a whole submarine under here. This really goes to show that there could have been a lot more boats, a lot more underwater things. Alright. I don't know why drink is popping up here. Here we have another bloody hand, which implies every time you see a bloody hand, there should be something the bloody hand might indicate the Chinese. Alright, so we can initiate the self-destruct and destroy this ship. Is there a reason why we're initiating this self-destruct and destroying this ship? Other than we're just following the orders of the Chinese spy for some, like, money reasons. I think that's really the only thing we would get from this. Just break the lock on that. Here we have goo. Yeah. Wasn't paying much attention to it, but I do think the general idea is that we are blowing up the ship, so the quest is done. Like, less than 1 minute. Let's see, confirm the submarine self-destruct by activating the failsafe lever. Where's the failsafe lever? Not seeing a failsafe lever. Okay. Let's get out of here before we blow up. Says let's just go over in this general direction. Like, the water is so murky though, you cannot see anything. It clearly is not programmed to let you see through the water. So when they did this gimmick, the one thing you would have had to really address by this is you would have had to programmed the water to not be so murky. Alright, so we'll just sit for a minute and see if this explodes. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to go back and find the failsafe lever. Feels like it would be an in-game minute, which an in-game minute has definitely happened already. So, no, actually it would have been an out-of-game minute, an actual real-world minute, because that would have made a lot more sense. People wouldn't know how long an in-game minute is. But even a real-world minute feels like it's already happened. Let's see. You'd almost certainly want to see some kind of cutscene or something around this. And it would make more sense to make the player confirm the explosion first and not after the timer is started. Yeah. Perhaps in the non-game of the year version of this, or through just changes and patches, maybe this vision has been made foggier. It wouldn't be the first time I've seen a game get worse looking. Engineer must engage the failsafe switch. And it's not this. And it's not that. And it's not these. A little fabric you can clip through. Oh, here it is. They tried so hard to make you be able to see it with the glowing, dripping, and the lighting, but what they managed to do is actually make it feel just like it's part of the background. Like, my eye is just drawn directly downward to this glowing green, or over here to the flickering lighting. And that's just like basic stuff that even when this game came out, people should have known. That was a dumb idea. Get clear of the submarine before it self-destructs. One assumes that it would just kill you and you wouldn't get any kind of like special cutscene. Wasn't particularly as impactful as I would have liked. And they put this giant boat here as a way of being a marker, but they blew up the smaller blue boat, or moved it. Problem here is I would still expect there to be some level of debris, and it feels like what they did is they just straight up despawned the boat. And so I don't think there's any bit of it left. See if we can maybe just fast travel from where we are, actually. Yeah, don't even have to be in the water. Or out of the water. This is kind of a great example of where vicious dogs could have been a bigger character, but then you have dogs that you're shooting all the time, and people wouldn't really like that, particularly with the ridiculously grotesque visuals. Inward we go. And what do we actually do here? Turn for further instructions and see if you actually get further instructions. Let's see. It says Ancient Jiang received automated correspondence of Chinese intelligence ministry, remote position of mission perimeter satisfactory, orbital intelligence verifies. So these computers seem to still be running, because obviously it wouldn't be a case that they still 200 years later expected people to succeed. Which this kind of implies that the Chinese government probably is not still around and in charge. It could be all robots and androids and computers in China running everything. Which, yeah, you could potentially take the Fallout series to a Terminator-style universe, which that is the story of Terminator, is Judgment Day, computers decide to launch nukes, and you could then get it away from being the United States rah-rah versus China, communist China rah-rah, which could get very played out. But then it would not feel quite enough like a Fallout game, I think. Okay. So this quest is going further. Says the toilet tank of the motel. And by toilet tank do they mean here? Yep. They meant that. Access the spy bunker. So we put on these glasses. And then what? Not paying enough attention. Use the cryptomatic spectacles and sequence note to access the spy bunker. And where was the spy bunker? Hidden among the grounds of Calvert Mansion. Coordinates have been provided within that. Okay. So, if it's Calvert Mansion, now the map tells me. Which, where could it be, I wonder, when you have I assume this is the aviary for birds, or maybe a greenhouse. But when you have this like special thing here, and they're gonna get very video gamey here. The question, I guess, is just which one is number one. Because 1 3 2 3 4 4 2. Which one's number one? Is there something? It's one line here, 2 lines here, 3 lines here, 4 lines here. Okay. 1 3 2 3 3 4 4 2. They seem like they have not lines painted on them, but actually maybe some reflections. Oh, I guess that you don't see these unless you're wearing the spectacle gun. Let's see if that's the case. Yep, you don't see the lines unless you're wearing the glasses. Very video gamey. Way more video gamey than most of everything else. Seeks the spy's extraction details on payment in the spy bunker. Okay. And here is the hatched a Chinese intelligent bunker. I guess the question will come down to, is this going to be a small room or is this going to be a big dungeon? I imagine it's going to be a small room. Bullets, bullets, bullets. I'll take the sniper rifle. It's just a protectron, which clearly they can program these. Oh, this is just a nightmare. Like 1 2 3 4 5 6. Like, I get what they were thinking here.
This is a hazardous area. For your own safety, please vacate the premises.
Let's see. Tell them the passphrase.
Clearance acknowledged. Follow me for your extraction debriefing, comrade.
So yeah, all of China may just be protectrons like this. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just try and kill you.
Please step inside, Agent. Extraction details can be found on the terminal inside.
It's a gun just big enough to shoot yourself. And yeah, feels like they're going to leave you to die. You've done well to get this far, Agent Jing. Your payment has been transferred to next of kin under the pretext of a ration lottery. With our deepest regret, however, your life must now be terminated for the good of the People's Republic. Go with dignity, Honorable Sergeant. And we can just repair and disable the gas. Chinese, kind of notorious for using gas. I think maybe that was the Japanese. This feels very much like Portal, Portal 1 must have come out by this point. Like, this is way different type of gameplay. So somebody made it this far. And that just dumps you out in the water. I would say, for the time that this game came out, it still would have just barely been acceptable to have such a jingoistic take on China, communist China being bad and the United States being the good guys. But certainly in 2022, I think it comes off as just too much sounding like propaganda and not a complex enough system. Where did we stop counting? Somewhere at 8? Let's just assume 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, 4 more, 5 more, 6 more, 7 more, 8 more, 9 more. Yeah, it's like, feels like there's about 18 or 20 ammunition boxes here for no good reason. Just put a table, have 3 ammunition boxes, have several different things there. We had already searched that. We can go ahead and grab another mini nuke. We can see if there's anything in here. We'll take that Chinese assault rifle, certainly. Yeah, Chinese officer sword and Chinese pistol if you haven't picked up those. But it definitely doesn't seem like you're actually getting a... This is like the one place where we can find some Chinese assault rifles to repair our gun. It doesn't seem like you're getting caps or anything like that. It would have worked just as well if there was a tunnel that was bombed in, and then that would build back into the idea of the bombs just ruining and killing everybody. And I guess at this level, now having played Fallout 3, the right move for them is to make a Fallout 6 where you play as the Chinese person and you're living in that area. Yeah, playing as a Chinese person living in China. That would be, I think, what you need to do to take this to the next level. And kind of correct what a more modern storytelling event needs to be. And you could still definitely lean on the Chinese Communist government being evil, and you could certainly lean on more the United States government also being evil, because it takes 2 to tango. Like, you definitely wouldn't want to make a game, a Fallout 6, that straight up said, nope, it was the Chinese, they nuked us 100%, we never shot a missile back, or we only retaliated after the fact. That's not a story I want to see told either. Let's see if we can get this whiskey and then we'll call it a day. But you could have just somebody 200 years later trying to survive in China from a Chinese version of Vault-Tec, if not Vault-Tec. It would make a lot more sense, as I've suggested a long time ago, for Vault-Tec to be really revealed as the oligarchical bad guy of the whole series, and that they actually caused the bombs to drop.
Brewing low and slows.
Alright, well, we'll just wait a day. And I would have thought all the fast traveling I would have done would have been 24 hours, but I guess since it's such a small area, 24 hours is a nice generic amount of time, but they could have said 12 hours just as easily. Yeah. But yeah, clearly in the Fallout games, the Chinese have never really been your enemy. That you don't shoot a bunch of Chinese people, they don't shoot at you.
Brewed and bottled. Here's your pay and a cut of the batch. Enjoy it.
So that could be the main. I got 6 moonshines.
Don't be a stranger now.
That could be the main story instead of the Waters of Life quest in Fallout 3. The main story could be working together with the Chinese to reunify and rebuild the world. That both sides need something. Maybe you don't have to play as a Chinese person. There is definitely the danger that if you did set the game in China and played as a Chinese person, you would either get the game banned in China, which you probably would anyways, or you would come off as pandering to China to not get the game banned and actually try to make it sell a lot more. So you'd have to definitely put a light touch on it. And I imagine Microsoft, now owning Bethesda, wouldn't want to go too much in that direction, so they probably would still have you play as a United Statesian, an American, living in some part of either of the United States, and then possibly at some point having to fly and travel over to China to see it, just like see a small part, something like Hong Kong or like Shanghai or Beijing, just make that a quest in a slightly different land, and then get back to the main open world. Although I'm not sure that the Fallout series needs a giant open world. Everybody thinks they need a giant open world game, but a linear experience might be better. Then you could leave the open world to Starlink and Skyrim, which Bethesda has painted themselves in this corner now, where they literally have for decades tried to make 3 tentpole series that were exactly the same in their gameplay style and only different in their visual style. And that idea almost certainly is built around the idea that they thought they were only going to be able to sell Fallout to a certain audience and Skyrim, Elder Scrolls games to a different audience. And they're a victim of their own success at this point, where anybody who likes Bethesda games is probably going to play all of them. Fallout games, Elder Scrolls games, and now the new Starlink games. And that potentially is going to have a new open world, too long for its own good game coming out every couple years. Alright, well, it's been nearly 3 hours. With any luck, we will be completely done with the main game. Oddly, we have not seen anything about the missing girl as far as her bright orange hair. We didn't see anything like that, so And we've seen almost every location on the map. I'd be shocked if there actually is even 3 hours left of gameplay content, but we'll see. That's going to be it for this recording, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.